Okay, sorry for the delay, but I guess it's not my fault. It's probably yours anyway. So this thing had to be earlier, much earlier, but we needed to move around and change things. What I'm going to try to do is just illustrate to you the process of cab inspection. Some of you have been through that, but probably many of you haven't. So we will start from the beginning. One of your colleagues asked Dr. Hand to tell you exactly how to move, how to get started with the process. The process starts with looking at what you are doing. You've heard about College of American Pathologists. You like the system. You want to get started. You start by looking at your procedures, get your procedure manual, validate all your tests, subscribe to PT, run everything for at least 6 months. Then you fill an application for cab inspection. There's a detailed application, asks you about all these data to show evidence, how you have been doing. The staff there at CAP review the data which you provided. And if they think you are ready, they will assign you an inspection window, a time frame during which you must be inspected, a time frame of about 3 months or so. At this time, once your application is approved, they start looking for an inspector or an inspection team to inspect your laboratory. So they will contact the state commissioner or the regional commissioner like myself or Dr. Basta, depending on the region. Here they will contact your regional commissioner for the area, which is Dr. Fadl in Saudi Arabia, and they will coordinate with the commissioner assigning a team. So the commissioner can recommend a team leader who might be from the US or might be from local folks, depending on the arrangement which you have with CAP. Some laboratories or their administration, their managers demand, for instance, at least the team leader be from the United States. Others don't mind. Now, the team leader is the key figure here. Once a team leader is chosen, the team leader is expected to set up a whole team. So the team leader then gets a whole inspection package from CAP. The package will include your data, all your details, your menu, your tests, your QC, whatever you have been doing. So in this case, the simulation which we are going to do assumes that I was chosen as a team leader by the commissioner. So I get the package for Kuwaiti National Hospital, let's say. And I look at the data. I familiarize yourself with everything you do in advance. If I need more information, I will call the lab director at the hospital and check with him or her to see what these details are, or what do I need to know more about the laboratory. Once we get acquainted and familiar with the process, then I set a date for the inspection. And in the United States, inspections are unannounced. We don't tell you when we're coming. You have a 3-month window, you know that window, but you don't know when exactly. So in that case, the team may drop in any time during those 3 months. Outside the United States, well, it's different because we have to travel and it involves a lot of logistics. So usually we pre-arrange a date. I call the lab director and we agree on a mutually acceptable date. And during this time, then I select my team. I look at your menu and I decide how many inspectors I have to have on the team. Let's say you have 4 or 5 sections. We normally expect every inspector, every team member to inspect at least 1 or 2 checklists. Most international inspectors are familiar with the process, they're experienced, so we can easily check more than 2 sometimes, 2 or 3. But on average, 1 or 2 checklists a day can be inspected. So based on that, we choose the team. Now, when we communicate with CAP, the staff have already studied also your information, and they give us recommendation on how many team members you are supposed to use. So we try to stay within that limit. Okay, so I set up the team, I inform them, we give them their parts, everybody gets their checklists, we give them some pep talk, encouragement, whatever, reminders of what they need to look into, and we assign a date of travel and going to the laboratory, okay? So that's all set in motion. So we arrive at the laboratory. Part of the inspection, as you heard from our talks, is to look at the laboratory as a key element of the organization. You are not isolated, or at least we don't like to see the lab isolated from the rest of the hospital. So although we are coming to inspect the lab, we are interested in looking at the hospital too. We're interested in knowing the relationship between the lab and management of the hospital and medical staff. So part of the inspection is to interview a representative from the medical staff, usually the CMO, the Chief Medical Officer, and a representative of management, the Chief Executive Officer. So we do that either at the beginning or during the inspection, depending on their time. That's usually a very brief interview just to familiarize ourselves with the process. Okay. Let's start with that. I'm going to give another microphone here. So I come to visit the lab. I have here folks who agreed to start acting career. So Dr. Basta will act as the lab director. And please say your name. Muhammad agreed to play a technical supervisor. And Sadiq, a bench tech who is working in the laboratory. And I'm just going to try briefly to inspect lab general. Now this is my checklist which I assigned to myself. So as you remember, Lab General has 2 or 3 main checklists. One is all common, that talks about items that pertain to every laboratory, to every section of the lab. And then Lab General, which talks more about general things for equipments and reagents and so on. And one about team leader, okay, I mean the lab director himself. So what I usually do, I start my inspection with, well, greetings and so on. We get in, I have the team. So the first thing is we do introduction into the laboratory. So we meet there and okay, Assalamu alaikum, or morning, good evening, whatever the language it is, okay.
Dr. Napil, I am the lab director.
Mr. Muhammad, I am senior support.
Mr. Siddiq, I'm technical on bench.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, folks. I'm Dr. Omar. I'm the team leader here. I run my own laboratory at the United States and have been assigned to inspect your laboratory. I want first to thank you for choosing the College of American Pathologists to be your accreditation authority here. As you know, the college's mission or method of accreditation inspection is different from other organizations in the fact that we are your peers. You run your own laboratories, we also run our own, so it's a peer-to-peer interaction. We're not here to police you, we're not here to judge you necessarily in a specific way, but we're here to work you towards quality improvement, and the goal is to make your laboratory just as good as any other laboratory in the world. If we discover any deficiencies, we will make certain that we inform you immediately of those deficiencies and help you correct them as soon as possible. There will be no hidden agenda, no secrets. So we hope that the process will go as smoothly as possible. We're going to start the inspection by walking through the laboratory just to give a feel of the lab. And then the inspectors will stop at their respective areas and start the inspection process.
Thank you for coming. We appreciate you coming here, and we hope you give us a good inspection. We can take a tour in the lab, and every supervisor will show you their areas, and then we can talk.
Okay, great. So that is the introduction. Now we introduce, so we will go together and walk through the lab. The first walk is just getting to know the place. Now, experienced inspectors, when they walk through the lab, don't assume they are just walking. Okay, we are really looking at things while you are walking, and we will come back to it. So don't get excited and say, oh, they overlooked this or not. This is just a brief. So we walk around and we already formulate in our minds, what am I going to check first? The reality is, like I said, you have about 3,000 check items if you want to inspect a big lab. There is no way we're going to look at every item. So we have to be selective. And that's why we just prioritize things. Okay, so we went through the tour and we finished. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to start with interview the lab director. That's how I do the inspection. That saves me a lot of time, a lot of headache. The lab director, of course, there's a whole checklist for the lab director. But more than that, I'm going to get a flavor of the lab. I'm going to understand the organization and get a lot of things out of it before I even start. Okay, so we're going to start the interview. Dr. Basta, well, it's good to see you again, and hope we can really understand a lot of things and help each other improve our laboratories. Can you just give me a rough idea about the organization of your lab first?
Well, our lab is a very busy lab, and we have a lot of clinical, and we also have anatomical pathology. I'm the director, but I delegated everything to the chiefs of each department of those. So I direct, but they manage.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for this introduction. Now I have a good idea about the organization of the lab. Well, let me see how much involvement you really have in the laboratory. Can you briefly just describe to me your quality management program in anatomic pathology?
Well, I delegated this actually to the chief lab manager under me, and he took care of that. So I will ask him to bring it for you. Would you please bring all the quality management books so he can review it?
Now let us to start by our documents in our clinical pathology.
Well, that's okay. Well, thank you. What I'm going to do then, if you can collect those documents, I'll come to you later after I finish the talk with the lab director. Yeah. Okay. Well, Dr. Basta, I'm going to look at the details there. But what's exactly your role in there? Do you actually design the quality management program? Do you read everything? Do you sit with people to look through it?
I don't read everything. I just have them, do that, and I just sign it after that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, yeah. Oh, okay, well, I think let's talk about that. I mean, I understand that this is a different place, a different laboratory, and I respect your organizational structures. However, we believe that the best way to have a good quality management program is to start at the top with the leadership. Do you think we can change this process a little bit in the future so you can be the leader in designing quality management programs and work on them with the staff instead of the other way around? Instead of expecting them to tell you what to do, maybe you can design.
Would you be able to help me to show me how to do that?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. The quality management program starts with, or one of the key things is putting indicators of quality. So maybe we can go through the processes. You have the pre-analytical process, analytical and post-analytical. Say in anatomic pathology, we could start with the specimen quality. That's pre-analytical. And we can say that the threshold or a benchmark for good quality specimen should be at 95% of the time. So we say the benchmark is 95% of the time, which means if we get more than 5% inadequate specimens, we have to talk to the clinicians and rearrange things and make sure they do better. Then we can set up at a few analytical indicators. For instance, we need to look at peer review, make sure that diagnosis is correct. we can make pathologists refer to each other a certain number of cases, like 10%, and document any deficiencies. And we can set a standard for discrepancies between them. How far or how much can we expect in terms of discrepancies? What do you think is a good number to expect to be acceptable in differences in diagnoses or challenge discrepancies between pathologists?
Well, according to ours here, sometimes we have different opinions. However, I think we should make the correct diagnosis.
Right.
So I will follow your way, and we're going to review about 10% of each one of us. We'll review the other one, and we'll make a policy with it that at least 10% of our work will review.
Oh, excellent. That's an excellent suggestion. Actually, this is a gold standard, and most good laboratories do require 10% peer review, and they set the error rate at, say, 1 in 1,000 or something like that. The benchmark is derived from understanding of the community, what is acceptable to other laboratories. You don't want to be worse than your peers, so 10% really puts you at the top. 1 in 1,000 or 1% rate of error is also reasonable, unless your staff want it to be more strict. But that's an excellent indicator. So then we go and set up a post-analytical indicator. For instance, turnaround time. Do you follow turnaround time in surgical pathology, for instance? Or do you think that would be a good monitor?
Well, we just wait on the immunostains to come, and then we review the case. So it takes around, a week to 10 days to turn a whole case out, like a colon cancer or something.
Okay, well, let's see how we can improve on that. The community standard is to divide surgical pathology specimens into those which are routine. They don't need immunostains. They don't need any extra workup. Those, about 80% of them are supposed to be within 2 work days. The others include those immunos or additional workup and so on, which are included in those 20%. So if we can design a turnaround time monitor, we could say we expect 80% of routine cases to be completed within 2 days.
I didn't know that, but I would work on it.
All right.
We can divide the work between us to have the routine cases finished by 2 days at the most, and the complicated cases, we'll give it a week.
Oh, excellent. That's another excellent suggestion. So you set here 2 standards for turnaround time. One for simple cases and one for complicated. One is 2 days, the other is 7 days. And certainly you can share that responsibility. You could assign a pathologist rotation once a month. One pathologist does the count and the statistics.
That's actually a good idea. We can add that. We have one of the pathologists always review the cases of the whole month and write in the end of the month his quality program, what he found, and then we improve it in the next month. How about that?
Yeah, that's a good idea. It depends on how often your clinicians expect the results to be available. Now, if you make a mistake, is 1 month too long to wait to correct the mistake? Suppose a pathologist made a mistake on diagnosis or a test came wrong. Do you think 1 month is too long? Do you think it's too long to wait to correct that mistake?
Maybe too long.
Maybe too long, yeah, I think so. Because if somebody has lung cancer or breast cancer or something like that, you don't want to wait a whole month. So maybe the peer reviewer should do it, or the rotation should be maybe every week or every 2 weeks. And how we determine that, actually, you don't take my word for it, you could consult with your clinicians. Tell them, if you're a surgeon and you get a diagnosis of lung cancer or breast cancer, how soon would you operate?
Well, I don't talk to them, they don't talk to me, and we are like in a separate places.
Okay.
I just give them the report and they take care of it.
Well, I think that's another area of improvement. I'm going to make sure I talk to the CEO and CMO and discuss that with them, because we want the lab to be integrated within the hospital. But I think that would be a good way to arrange things so that results are ready in a week or so it can be useful. All right, well, excellent.